What do you get when you put Jenna Ortega in a movie that no one has heard of and you don't promote the movie? Well, you get a movie that doesn't even crack the top 15 in money. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. Welcome into the channel. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and comment below if you've even heard of this movie before. Today on the channel, I'm going to be reviewing a comedy drama film called Miller's Girl. It was directed by Jade Halley Bartlett. This is her directorial debut, and she also wrote the movie as well. The film stars Jenna Ortega, Martin Freeman, and Gideon Adlon, and it is about a young talented writer, aka Jenna Ortega, and she gets into this entangled web of a relationship with her teacher. The first question you may be asking is, Ryan, how the hell did you hear about this movie? I've never heard of it before. Well, the only reason I have heard of this movie is because one of my friends actually sent me this trailer some months ago. I go to the theater every week and I can tell you that they did not promote this movie at all. I have a ton of theaters in my area and only 2 theaters were showing this movie. So I can imagine that a lot of people don't know this movie actually exists. And I can understand why after watching this movie. Now it's going to be a little bit of a stretch to think of positives for this film, but what I actually came up with is I did like Jenna Ortega in this film. I think that she's trying her hardest, and I think most of the acting in here isn't necessarily bad. I just don't think anybody really has a lot to work with. We know with Jenna Ortega's character in this, she is a writer, she's very smart, she has a high GPA, she lives in this mansion, and her parents, they're not there. They explain that they're off in some foreign country. She walks through the woods every day, and she gets to school, and she's really enthralled in books and writing and reading. She's all into all that and just the meanings and reciting certain things. She has a friend named Winnie, played by Gideon Adlon, and I thought she did a pretty good job providing the comedy of this film. She likes to act really sexy, dress sexy. She has a flirtation going on with another teacher in the school and trying to get a good grade. She's very sassy. She's a waiter at a restaurant. A lot of this film really centralizes on these 2 girls. They talk about sex, they talk about erotic things, they talk about older men and how they want to get with older men. They are virgins. And that's where a lot of this film really centralizes on girls that are in high school trying to age and mature and really reading a lot of like erotic fiction. Jenna Ortega's Cairo, she strikes up this relationship with her teacher, Mr. Miller. And that's really the basis of this film. But the problem of that plot of the film, it's very undercooked. And they don't really explore a lot into their relationship. And while I feel like that's going to be very uncomfortable for some, I don't think this is a film where it really tackles really a lot of that relationship. You get a little bit of glimpses of certain things here and there, certain fantasies that she has, fantasies that he has, but it doesn't really quite get too much into the relationship. It doesn't get really crazy. I really thought that this film was going to get really dark at times, and there were a few scenes where they really go into like the sexual nature of the film, but it just doesn't really evolve into anything. You can really tell with the director here being a first-time writer that she really needed a co-writer here, because the writing of this film, it's just atrocious. I was very bored during this film. I wanted to walk out, to be honest with you, because it just didn't really have a compelling narrative. The only time that I felt kind of engaged in the story here is when the 2 girls, they're talking and they have a little bit of comedy bits here and there and just funny little things where I was like, all right, this is just a little bit out there here and there with their erotic feelings and such like that. But really the relationship between her and the teacher, I thought it was really dull. You know, they talk about writing and reading and all that kind of stuff. There's one part where they actually bond and they go to this poetry reading, which we do see them bond during certain times like that, and certain things really change within the film. But that's honestly the last 15 minutes of the film, and this has one of the worst endings that I've seen in a film in years. I mean, the ending is so bad. Just kind of scratch the surface a little bit, and then they just don't elaborate anymore. Like, for instance, in a relationship like this, there is a certain point where there is a turning point where it seems like it's going to amp up, it's going to get really crazy. We get a little bit into the glimpse of, okay, the movie's going to start to turn, And then when it gets to that point, it just ends and you get nothing more. That's why I say that this film is not worth it to watch. It's definitely a streaming film. I understand people would want to support Jenna Ortega. And I think this is one of those movies where she had to agree to some contract with Lionsgate to actually do a bunch of different movies for them, because it feels like this movie is just being thrown out in theaters. It has no faith in it. There's no promotion for it, and it has the worst money that it's making right now. I mean, it didn't even crack the top 15 for the week. There's other movies that have been out for months that made more than this movie did because nobody knows that this movie exists. So it's like, what was the point of this? I mean, you could have threw this on a streaming service, probably could have put this on Netflix or something like that, and people definitely would have watched it because Wednesday was a popular series. I think they would have hit big numbers and probably would have made more off the streaming than they are going to make in the theaters. I mean, this is a waste of time to put in theaters if you're not going to promote it and not even have trailers. Going to the theater every week, I never saw a trailer, so it's like, what are you guys doing? So in that aspect, this movie is a fail, and I honestly just can't recommend it. It just doesn't have anything to really draw you in too much. Jenna Ortega's acting, I can understand where people would want to see her act in something else a little bit different. She has good acting here. I think it's good and she's trying, but the narrative sucks. The writing sucks. It's not compelling. It's boring. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if anybody fell asleep in the theater checking this film out. So I can only give a score of this film a 1 out of 5. It's the worst movie I've seen this year. It just doesn't have anything to really draw the audience in and really care about the relationship with her and the teacher. There's just a few moments here and there, and then her friend giving some comedy moments, and then some sexual moments here and there. But other than that, it sucks. It's completely terrible. In the comments, what do you guys think about Miller's Girl? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you haven't seen it, have you heard of it? Are you going to check it out at home? Are you going to go to a theater and check this film out, even if it's in your area or not? Because it's really not in a lot of areas right now. Leave any and all comments down below. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I will see you guys on my next review.